Until you respect yourself, nobody else ever will. Nietzsche. Have you ever wondered why some people command respect effortlessly while others beg for it and get none? What makes someone truly valued in the eyes of others? Is it wealth, status, or something deeper, something within? Friedrich Nietzsche, the provocative 19th century philosopher, once suggested that respect isn't something you request, it's something you claim through self-respect. His words cut through time. Until you respect yourself, nobody else ever will. But what does that mean in a world obsessed with external validation? Why does self-respect matter so much? And how has its meaning shifted from ancient times to our hyper-connected modern age? Buckle up, because we're diving deep into a truth that might shock you, and one you need to hear. In this article, we'll explore the concept of personal value across history, why respect must be claimed, not requested, and how morality often stems from fear rather than strength. We'll compare ancient and modern perspectives, uncover startling facts about human behavior, and reveal why relying on external validation makes you more fragile than you realize. By the end, you'll see why Nietzsche's philosophy is more relevant than ever, and how embracing it can transform your life. The value of a person, then and now. In ancient times, a person's value was often tied to their role in the collective. In societies like ancient Greece, Rome, or Mesopotamia, respect was earned through tangible contributions, whether as a warrior, a leader, or a craftsman. Think of Achilles in Homer's Iliad, whose value stemmed from his unmatched prowess in battle. His self-respect wasn't just personal pride, it was a public declaration of his strength, validated by his deeds. In Sparta, a citizen's worth was measured by their courage and loyalty to the state. A weak or cowardly Spartan was ostracized. Their value diminished not because they sought approval, but because they failed to embody the virtues their society prized. Contrast this with today's world, where personal value is often measured by likes, followers, and external accolades. Social media has created a culture where people curate their lives for approval, tying their worth to metrics that didn't exist a generation ago. In ancient times, respect was rooted in action and character. Now, it's often a performance for an audience of strangers. The shift is profound. Where once you proved your worth through deeds, now you're tempted to prove it through perception. But here's the catch. Nietzsche would argue that true respect starts within, not with the applause of others. Respect, claimed, not requested. Nietzsche's philosophy challenges us to rethink respect. He believed that begging for validation, whether from society, peers, or even family, signals weakness. Respect, he argued, is something you claim by embodying your values unapologetically. In ancient times, this was clear. A Roman general didn't plead for his soldiers' loyalty. He earned it through decisive victories. Similarly, a philosopher like Socrates commanded respect not by demanding it, but by living his truth, even when it led to his execution. Today, the temptation to seek external validation is stronger than ever. Social media platforms thrive on this, encouraging users to chase likes and comments as proof of their worth. But Nietzsche would scoff at this. To him, requesting respect is like admitting you don't deserve it. Instead, respect is claimed by standing firm in your principles, even when the world disagrees. Consider someone like Malala Yousafzai, who didn't wait for permission to advocate for girls' education. Her self-respect, rooted in her conviction, forced the world to take notice. Morality, born from fear, not strength. Nietzsche's critique of morality is one of his most shocking ideas, and it's one we need to grapple with. He argued that much of what we call morality doesn't come from strength or virtue, but from fear, specifically the fear of standing alone. In ancient societies, moral codes often emerged to maintain order. For example, in ancient Judea, the Ten Commandments weren't just divine laws. They were social guardrails, ensuring group cohesion in a harsh world. People adhered to them not always out of inner conviction, but because defying them meant exile or death. Nietzsche saw this as a kind of slave morality, rules created by the weak to protect themselves from the strong. In contrast, he admired what he called master morality, where individuals like the ancient Greek heroes defined their values through bold, independent action. Fast forward to today, and we see a similar dynamic. Social norms, whether it's political correctness or cancel culture, often stem from fear of standing out or being ostracized. People conform not because they believe in these norms, but because they dread the consequences of dissent. This is where Nietzsche's insight stings. True strength lies in defying the crowd and embracing your own path, even if it isolates you. How things have changed, ancient versus modern. The contrast between ancient and modern perspectives on self-respect is stark. In ancient Egypt, a pharaoh's self-respect was inseparable from his divine status. His confidence came from a belief in his God-given authority, reinforced by monumental achievements like the pyramids. Similarly, in ancient China, Confucian ideals emphasized self-cultivation. Respect was earned through discipline, wisdom, and service to the family and state. These societies valued inner strength and contribution over external approval. Today, the landscape is different. The rise of individualism has given us unprecedented freedom to define ourselves, but it's also created a paradox. We're freer than ever, yet more dependent on external validation. Studies show that social media use correlates with higher rates of anxiety and depression, particularly among young people. A 2019 study in The Lancet found that teenagers who spent more than 3 hours daily on social media were at greater risk of mental health issues, largely due to the pressure to conform to idealized images. This is a far cry from the ancient warrior who sought glory through battle, not a filtered selfie. Another modern shift is the commodification of respect. In ancient times, respect was tied to character or deeds. Now, it's often tied to status symbols, designer clothes, verified accounts, or viral moments. But these are fleeting. Nietzsche would argue that this reliance on external markers makes us fragile, as we'll explore next. The fragility of external validation. Here's a fact that might shock you. The more you rely on external validation, the more fragile you become. Psychologists call this the external locus of control, where your sense of self depends on others' opinions. A 2020 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who base their self-worth on external factors, like social approval or achievements, are more likely to experience emotional instability. Why? Because external validation is unpredictable. A single negative comment can shatter someone who lives for likes, while a self-respecting person, grounded in their own values, is unshaken. Nietzsche would say this fragility comes from surrendering your power. When you seek approval, you hand others the reins to your self-worth. In ancient times, this was less common because survival demanded self-reliance. A Viking warrior didn't need Instagram to feel valued. His survival in battle was proof enough. Today, we're bombarded with opportunities to outsource our self-respect, whether through social media, workplace accolades, or even family expectations. The result? A society of people who are emotionally brittle, craving validation they can never fully secure. Shocking facts you need to know. Let's dive into some startling realities that underscore Nietzsche's point. 1. The dopamine trap of social media. Neuroscientists have found that likes and comments on social media trigger dopamine releases in the brain, similar to addictive substances. A 2018 study in Nature Communications revealed that this dopamine hit creates a feedback loop, compelling users to seek more validation. This isn't just a habit, it's a neurological dependency that undermines self-respect. 2. The loneliness epidemic. Despite being more connected than ever, people are lonelier. A 2023 survey by Cigna found that 61% of Americans report feeling lonely, a number that's risen sharply in the digital age. Why? Because external validation, likes, follows, retweets, doesn't fill the void of self-respect. Nietzsche would argue that only by standing alone can you truly connect with others authentically. 3. The cost of conformity. History shows that conformity often stems from fear, not strength. In ancient Rome, citizens who defied the emperor's edicts risked death. Today, the stakes are different but real. Cancel culture can destroy reputations overnight. A 2019 Pew Research study found that 38% of Americans feel afraid to express their opinions publicly due to fear of backlash. This fear-driven morality stifles self-respect and authenticity. 4. The power of self-respect in crisis. Studies on resilience show that self-respect is a key predictor of how people handle adversity. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that individuals with high self-esteem, rooted in internal values, not external praise, were better equipped to recover from setbacks. Nietzsche's insight here is clear. When you respect yourself, external chaos loses its power over you. Examples from ancient times and today. To bring this to life, let's look at some examples.
Ancient example: Diogenes the Cynic. In ancient Greece, Diogenes lived in a barrel, rejecting societal norms and material wealth. He claimed respect by living authentically, even when mocked. When Alexander the Great offered him anything he wanted, Diogenes famously replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." His self-respect was unshakable, rooted in his philosophy, not others' opinions. Modern example: Kanye West. Love him or hate him, Kanye West embodies Nietzsche's idea of claiming respect. He's polarizing, but his unapologetic pursuit of his vision, whether in music, fashion, or public life, commands attention. While his methods spark debate, his refusal to beg for approval aligns with Nietzsche's philosophy. Ancient example: Cleopatra. Cleopatra's power came not just from her status, but from her self-assured charisma. She navigated alliances with Rome's most powerful men by projecting unshakable confidence. Her self-respect made her a legend, not her crown. Modern example: whistleblowers like Edward Snowden. Snowden risked everything to expose government surveillance, driven by his own moral code. Whether you agree with him or not, his actions reflect a Nietzschean refusal to bow to external pressures, claiming respect through conviction. Why this matters now? In our modern world, Nietzsche's call to self-respect is a wake-up call. We live in an era of unprecedented noise. Social media, 24/7 news cycles, and cultural pressures demand conformity at every turn. But the more we chase external validation, the more we lose ourselves. Nietzsche's philosophy reminds us that true strength lies in standing alone, defining your worth on your terms, and claiming respect through action, not pleas. Here's why you need to know this. Without self-respect, you're at the mercy of a world that will never fully satisfy you. The algorithms of social media, the opinions of colleagues, even the approval of loved ones, they're all fleeting. But when you respect yourself, you build an inner fortress that no external force can breach. This isn't just philosophy, it's a survival strategy for a world that thrives on fragility. How to claim your self-respect. So, how do you live Nietzsche's truth? Here are practical steps to start. 1. Define your values. What do you stand for? Write down 3 principles that guide you, and let them be your compass, not the opinions of others. 2. Embrace solitude. Spend time alone to reflect on who you are without external input. Nietzsche believed solitude was essential for self-discovery. 3. Act authentically. Take one bold action that aligns with your values, even if it risks disapproval. It could be speaking your truth, pursuing a passion, or setting a boundary. 4. Detach from validation. Limit time on social media and focus on internal metrics of success. How you feel about your growth, not how others perceive it. 5. Study resilient figures. Read about people like Diogenes, Malala, or even Nietzsche himself. Their stories show that self-respect is a choice, not a gift. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The unshakable truth of self-respect. Have you ever felt like the world is pulling you in 1,000 directions, demanding you conform, perform, or prove your worth? Do you catch yourself chasing approval, likes, compliments, or status, only to feel emptier when you get it? What if the secret to true strength lies not in controlling what others think, but in mastering your own mind? The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This ancient wisdom, echoed by thinkers like Nietzsche, cuts through the noise of our modern world, revealing a truth that society quietly buries. A person who respects themselves as a birthright, not a performance, becomes unstoppable and dangerous to those who thrive on control. We'll dive deep into why self-respect is the ultimate rebellion in a world designed to keep you insecure, predictable, and compliant. We'll explore how modern systems, algorithms, ads, and influencers exploit weak self-esteem, why the first act of freedom begins in your mind, and how quiet, solitary decisions to honor your own standards can transform you into the architect of your own moral code. Prepare to uncover shocking truths about how society manipulates your insecurities and learn how to reclaim your power by embracing self-respect as your sacred, non-negotiable birthright. The hidden control of a self-doubting mind. Modern society doesn't need chains to control you, it uses mirrors. These mirrors, in the form of social media, advertisements, and cultural norms, show you a distorted version of yourself, one that's always lacking, always chasing, always waiting for permission to feel enough. Why? Because a person with low self-respect is easier to manipulate. When you don't believe in your inherent worth, you're more likely to buy products you don't need, follow trends you don't care about, and silence your voice to avoid conflict. This is no accident. It's a system designed to feed off what psychologists call a weak self-schema, a fragile sense of identity dependent on external validation. Consider the numbers. A 2021 study in Nature Communications found that social media engagement triggers dopamine releases, creating an addictive cycle where users crave likes and comments. Algorithms know your fears, your insecurities about your looks, status, or success, and serve content that amplifies them. Ads exploit your loneliness, promising fulfillment through purchases. Influencers tap into your craving for significance, selling lifestyles you're conditioned to envy. The result? A society where people are easier to sell to, easier to silence, and easier to mold because they've outsourced their self-worth to systems that profit from their doubt. This is why self-respect is so threatening. A person who respects themselves as a birthright, not a performance, becomes unpredictable. They question authority, refuse to buy what they don't need to impress people they don't admire, and disrupt groupthink. They don't bend to the weaponized approval systems of likes, follows, or viral fame. In short, they're harder to control, and that's exactly what modern society fears. The first rebellion, power over your mind. The path to self-respect begins not on a battlefield or a ballot, but in the quiet recesses of your mind. It's in the small, unnoticed moments when you choose to honor yourself without an audience, applause, or reward. Marcus Aurelius' insight, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," is a radical call to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your standards, your reactions. This is where true strength is born, and it's a truth the world doesn't want you to remember. Think about it. You can't control how others treat you, whether they respect you, or what opportunities come your way. But you hold absolute power over the standards you set for yourself. This is moral sovereignty, the ability to live by your own laws in a world addicted to conformity. It's not about loud defiance or reckless rebellion. It's about quiet decisions made in solitude. Choosing discipline over indulgence, principle over popularity, silence over needless approval. These are the sacred, non-negotiable boundaries you build, not for show, but for survival. A shocking fact: studies show that people with an internal locus of control, those who believe their worth comes from within, are more resilient to stress and adversity. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that individuals with high self-esteem, rooted in internal values, recover faster from setbacks than those reliant on external praise. This isn't just psychology, it's rebellion. When you decide to respect yourself regardless of the world's applause, you reclaim a power that no algorithm, ad, or critic can touch. The modern world's performance trap. The modern world is a stage, and every day you're offered a role that demands you shrink. Social media amplifies this, turning life into a performance where your worth is measured by metrics, followers, likes, retweets. A 2023 Pew Research study revealed that 41% of Americans feel pressure to present a curated, idealized version of themselves online. This isn't progress, it's a quiet, brilliant kind of control. By convincing you that your value lies in how others perceive you, society ensures you'll stay compliant, predictable, and profitable. Here's another startling truth. The loneliness epidemic is no coincidence. Despite hyperconnectivity, 61% of Americans reported feeling lonely in a 2023 Cigna survey, a number tied to the rise of digital interactions. Why? Because external validation, likes, comments, or virtual clout can't replace the deep, unshakable confidence of self-respect. When your worth depends on what others reflect back to you, you're left chasing a mirage that leaves you emptier each time.
Influencers, brands, and even cultural norms exploit this. They sell you a narrative. You're not enough until you have the right look, job, or lifestyle. But Nietzsche and Aurelius would call this a lie. Self-respect isn't earned through external markers. It's claimed by refusing to let the world define what you deserve. It's walking away from spaces that shrink you, abandoning values traded for fake friendships or fleeting clout, and reclaiming your voice above the noise. Building your moral code, the architect of your soul. Self-respect isn't arrogance or hostility. It's discipline. It's knowing you can walk away from anything that insults your intelligence or spirit. It's setting boundaries not to keep others out, but to keep yourself intact. This is where you become the architect of your own moral code, not a puppet of culture, social media, or influencers with products to sell. Ask yourself, where have you let the world decide what you deserve? Where have you bent your spine to fit into spaces that diminish you? Which values have you abandoned for compliments, promotions, or followers? Naming these is the first step to reclaiming them. Your moral code, the things you will and won't tolerate, regardless of cost, is your foundation. Without it, you're clay in the hands of a society eager to mold you into something forgettable. Consider historical examples. In ancient Rome, Cato the Younger refused to compromise his principles, even when it meant defying Julius Caesar and facing death. His self-respect wasn't loud, it was steadfast, rooted in a moral code he refused to bend. Today, think of whistleblowers like Chelsea Manning, who risked everything to expose truths they believed in. Their actions weren't for applause, but for integrity, a quiet, powerful claim to self-respect. Practical steps to claim your power. So, how do you embrace this truth and build unshakable self-respect? Here are actionable steps to start today. Identify your non-negotiables. Write down 3 values or standards you refuse to compromise, no matter the cost. These are your moral code's foundation. Practice solitude. Spend 10 minutes daily in silence, reflecting on your choices and goals without external input. Solitude strengthens your inner voice. Say no without guilt. Set one boundary this week. Decline a request, walk away from a toxic dynamic, or skip a trend that doesn't serve you. Notice how it feels to prioritize yourself. Curate your inputs. Audit your media consumption. Unfollow accounts that trigger insecurity or pressure to conform. Replace them with voices that inspire authenticity. Act on principle. Take one small action aligned with your values, even if it risks disapproval. Speak your truth, pursue a passion, or stand firm in a tough moment.
Reflect on past compromises. List moments where you traded your values for approval. Forgive yourself, then commit to reclaiming those values moving forward. The silent reckoning, where freedom begins. There's a point in every life where the question isn't whether the world respects you, it's whether you do. In that silent reckoning, something dangerous and beautiful can happen. The realization that while you can't control external events, you hold absolute power over your mind. This is where self-respect is born and where true freedom begins. It's not about grand gestures or loud declarations. It's about the quiet moments when you choose yourself, when you opt for discipline over indulgence, integrity over popularity, and silence over the clamor for approval. These choices, made without fanfare, are your rebellion against a world that profits from your doubt. They're the bricks of an inner fortress no external force can breach. Here's a final, shocking truth. The world doesn't need to change for you to be free. Freedom starts the moment you decide you're enough, not because others say so, but because you know it in your bones. This is the power Marcus Aurelius spoke of, the strength Nietzsche championed, and the truth modern society fears. Claim it, and you'll find not just respect, but a life that's truly your own. Conclusion: the power of self-respect. Nietzsche's words, "Until you respect yourself, nobody else ever will," are a challenge and a promise. In ancient times, respect was earned through deeds and character. Today, it's too often sought through fleeting validation. But the truth remains. Respect is claimed, not requested. Morality born from fear will always bind you, while self-respect sets you free. The more you rely on external approval, the more fragile you become. But the more you trust yourself, the stronger you grow. This isn't just a philosophy, it's a revolution. In a world that tempts you to conform, to beg, to shrink, Nietzsche dares you to stand tall, claim your truth, live your truth, and watch how the world responds when you do.